Here's an interesting story. I guess you can call it a Sephardic story. Sephardic story. A Jewish story. Once there was a time. Once there was a. I guess this was in Baghdad. The story. And one day the Sultan, the leader, the Sultan, he was on the roof of his palace looking at the stars, and he was with his chief advisor, who was a big anti-Semite, Mustafa. And they looked up and they saw a falling star. Very impressive. You see a star falling, very impressive. And his advisor all of a sudden got the idea, said, Your Majesty, that is the star, the guardian star of the Jewish people. And it has fallen. The Jewish people have no luck anymore. It's a sign to you from heaven that you can get rid of all the Jews, take all their money, all their possessions, and get rid of them from the country. We don't need them anyway. They don't believe the same thing we do, and they're just a bone in our throat. You have to get rid of them. The king sort of liked the Jewish people. I mean, first of all, they paid their taxes, and they didn't make any trouble. And they were very loyal to him, right? And also they added a lot to the country, the economy of the country. They kept the place interesting. Anyway, but his advisor said to do it. But he said to his advisor, listen, I'm very worried. I read in the Bible that there was Moses by the Jewish people, and he did really bad to Paro. I mean, 10 plagues, and he decimated them all, and there was a plague of darkness, and the king was just started shaking, I don't want that to happen to me, so let's just forget the idea. He says, but Your Majesty, that's in the past. They don't have anybody like that anymore. There's no one like Moses. The Jewish people, that's an old story. The Jewish people are sinners, and they have left their original purpose, and the God has abandoned them. Here you see, we're the leaders, we're the big ones, and now their star has fallen. The little bit of merit they had is gone. They have nobody like Moses. So the king said, listen, okay, I believe what you say, but I'm still worried. Let's do like this. We'll make an announcement that if the Jews can produce someone like Moses, then we won't evict them from the country. But if they don't, in 1 week, produce someone like Moses, then we'll evict them. So good idea. So the next day, there was like a lightning in a clear day. All of a sudden, it was a tremendous shock to the Jewish people. There was on all the doors, on all the walls, or on the walls, on the announcement boards, that the Jewish people are now will be evicted from the land with only the clothes on their back, unless they produce someone that is like Moses, that can do miracles like Moses. So the Jews didn't know what to do. So they all got together and they all started praying. And the king will change his mind, do something. On the second day, he comes into the synagogue. Everyone's praying. They're all praying. Comes into the synagogue. A Jewish guy is walking like a traveler. And he doesn't really notice, goes over into a corner, takes out a sandwich, goes and washes his hands, comes, starts eating. Someone comes over to him and says, excuse me, today, I know you probably don't know, but today is a fast day. He said, well, yeah, I didn't know it was a fast day. Well, he says, well, the king made this decree. You have to produce someone like Moses. If not, he's going to evict everybody and we'll lose everything we have. He says, evict someone like Moses, evict you? Oh, what are you talking about? He says, no, we have the Sultan. Of course, everybody knows the Sultan. He says, well, someone convinced him that I must be that Mustafa guy. He probably convinced him to do that. What do you have to do? You have to bring somebody like Moses. How is he going to know who's like Moses? King knows the Torah. He says, no, he has to do miracles like Moses. So this old guy says, I'll go. And if it doesn't work, so just say, this maniac can. Sure enough, this old fellow, he goes to the king. And he said, I heard what's happening. I can do miracles like Moses. You can do miracles like Moses? The king said, let's see. And he gathers everybody together with all of his wise men, and he's standing in front of the king, and he says, okay, you claim, he says to his Mustafa, this man claims that he can do miracles like Moses. And he said, well, that's ridiculous. Let's see you do a miracle. Let's see you split the sea. So this old Jew, he says, split the sea, that's nothing for me. I can do a miracle that Moses didn't do. I can do miracles that even Moses didn't do. He said, really, what can you do? Says the king. I can cut a person's head off, and the person will be dead, and I can put his head back on, and I'll bring him back to life. Moses did a thing like that? King said, no one can do that. That's ridiculous. Well, I can do it. So you better watch out for me. So the king said, well, how do I know that you're telling the truth? How do you know? How do you know? Oh, one thing I wanted to tell you, Your Majesty. It has to be a person that's genuinely wise. It has to be a wise person. A person that's not wise, his head is not really fitting his body anyway, right? So it has to be a person who's really wise. I can cut off his head, and the person will die and I'll put it back on, and it'll become Pulem. And so you have somebody like that. He said, "Well, I have my advisors. I have my chief advisor, Mustafa." Mustafa says, "No, hey, Your Majesty, this man is a faker. He's going to kill me. He's going to." So the king said, "Listen, it could be that he's a faker, but it could be not. And if he's not a faker, then he can rain down hail with fire inside, 10 plagues. I don't know, you want to decimate the whole country? I think that it's worthwhile, if you're really a genuine the patriot, that you'll be willing to test this man. Okay, bring him a sword." Mustafa says, one second, Your Majesty. I'm not so smart as you think. The fact of the matter is, I really don't know exactly how to read, and I've never really I got to go to the bathroom. Ran out and never saw again. So, well, what about the other wise men? They all ran away. So the king said, "Okay, I understand. My wise men are not really so wise. I realize that the decree against the Jews is not right. I'm rescinding the decree. No more decree." And so the man went back to the Jewish people. He told them what to do. And the Yehudim hoya ora v'simcha v'sazon tremendous joy by the Jews because of the wisdom of one and the self-sacrifice of this one Jew. And in fact, that's what Mashiach is going to do. Mashiach, the Jewish people are, I don't know if you can say dead, but comatose, and he's going to put their head back on the Jew. That's why the Mashiach is called Rosh Bnei Yisrael. Rebbe is the Rosh, is the head of the Jewish people, to return the head back and bring the Jews back to life. Have a good day. Have a good Shabbat with Mashiach now, and see you on Sunday at 8 o'clock in the morning.